Let me welcome you to today's press conference, which is devoted to the new co-production Anthropoid, the filming of which will begin in the next few weeks in the Czech Republic, and which deals, as you all know, with the dramatic event surrounding the assassination of Reinhard Heydrich. Let me first introduce our guests. The lead role of the parachutist Jan Kubiš is played by Jamie Dornan. The movie is written and directed by Sean Ellis, an Oscar nominee for his movie Cashback. Aňa Geislerová, the Czech actress, plays the role of Josef Gabčík's partner, Liběna Favková. Pete Shilaimon is a producer who, besides other things, co-produced an adaptation of Emil Zola's novel Teres Raken called In Secret. And just by the wall is David Ondříček, which is co-producing Anthropoid. And David is also a Czech Lion Award winner for his movie In the Shadow. The conference will last for 45 minutes. And let me welcome your first questions. Věra Mišková.
Dobrý den, Věra Míšková, Právo. Já bych se chtěla úvodem zeptat pana Seana Ellise, jak se dostal vůbec k té látce, která je samozřejmě celoevropsky důležitá, ale zároveň je přeci jenom česká. Jak se k ní dostal, proč se rozhodl jí točit? Děkuji.
I first saw a documentary about Operation Anthropoid in 2001, and I have a great interest of all things World War II, and I'd never come across this story, and I just thought it was an incredible story, very heroic, very moving. And I slowly started to researching it further, and over the space of the last sort of 10, 15 years, I've created quite an archive of the material surrounding Anthropoid. And then coming out from my last film, I was looking for something that was sort of similar in the sense of a sort of very emotional kind of sacrifice, and I felt that the sort of sacrifice that Jan Kubiš and Josef Gabčík made for their country was a similar theme of what I explored in Metro Manila, and I was drawn to it, and I thought that now was the time to actually try and get that film made, and so here we are.
Nick, the Hollywood Reporter.
Okay, it's a slightly similar question. Why now? This is an event from 1942, and a follow-up question to that. Where have you shot the assassination? Because you can't actually use the original site anymore because they changed the road layout. I remember I lived in Prague 15 years ago and I walked that layout back then before they changed it. So those two questions.
Why now? I mean, I don't know why now. I mean, personally, you know, for me it was, like I said, I've been researching it since 2001, and so yeah, and coming out of the other side of Metro Manila, I was looking for what to do next, and this seemed like the thing that I wanted to do next. So I started working with Anthony Fruing on the script. I think our first draft was like 680 pages because it's such an enormous story. You know, if you follow the beginning of this, from you know Munich agreement all the way to the assassination, and then beyond, you know, to obviously the aftermath. It's an incredibly complex and large story, and it took us a long time to actually figure out what was the story to tell. And for me, it was the story of the two parachutists. It felt like that was the journey that I wanted to discover as an audience member. I wanted to know what it was like to be Kubiš and Gabčík. I wanted to know what it was like to, you know, stand in front of that Mercedes and be confronted with, you know, the ultimate act of resistance. And I think, you know, the more I thought about it, the more I became obsessed with the experience of these two men and what they went through. So for me, that it felt right. It felt like the next film that I wanted to make. I also wanted to make it very sort of contained and a very emotional piece. I didn't really see it as sort of a big, grand kind of war epic, because I think the actions of the people involved are epic, and the emotions are epic. And I felt that if I could tell the story on a very small scale in that sense, that would be the way to tell this story. You know, the people actually involved in the Czech resistance at the time. What was the other part of your question? Sorry.
Where you've actually shot the
Oh right, yeah, yeah. It's interesting because, like, you know, I'd probably say in the last 10 years, I was having this conversation with David, and in the last 10 years, Prague has changed so much that I actually believe that probably in the next 5 years you won't be able to make period films there anymore, because it's so modern looking now. And so we have had quite a lot of difficulty finding the locations that have the authentic feeling, and we found a corner that resembled the original corner, and we'll be using that. And because like you quite rightly said, the original corner doesn't exist anymore. So, you know, there are still things like the church and the crypt, and they're still there, and you know, there's lots of you know, and Mrs. Moravet's real apartment where it is. So we've taken a lot of this original documentation, and we've tried to augmentate it into our production design so that we get a very authentic feeling of the period.
Do you do the backstory about the training with the
You have to wait for the mic.
Do you do the backstory about the training of the parachutists with the special operations executive in the UK?
No, we open in Prague.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just one brief additional question. Jamie, I mean, obviously people know you recently for another film. This is a very different role. Are you at all worried that viewers may bring expectations or associations from 50 Shades of Grey and the follow-up coming to this role?
I'm not sure what kind of person would be expecting anything like the two films to merge together. No. No.
Mirka Spáčová.
Spáčová dnes, dobrý den. Já bych měla také otázku na pana Jimmyho Dornana. U nás je atentát na Heydricha vlastně součástí školního dějepisu, vlastně výuky. Mě by zajímalo, kdy se o tom dověděl on, protože není tak dlouho, co chodil do školy, a jestli se o tom více dověděl právě až díky té roli. A druhá otázka, jestli je větší závazek hrát skutečnou postavu, skutečného hrdinu historie, než smyšlenou fiktivní postavu. Děkuju.
Yeah, it's pleasing to know that you think I'm not that long out of school. It's kind of pleasing. I'm feeling quite old these days. No, I mean, I went to school in the north of Ireland, in Belfast, and we certainly, in our history lessons, we covered First World War and the Second World War. I didn't listen a great deal, I have to admit, at that time. And this particular episode within Second World War, no, I'd never heard of it before. I mean, even Sean was saying your history of the Second World War is quite extensive, and you weren't immediately aware of this particular period. So, I learned of Operation Anthropoid was when I read the script, and was blown away by it, and the fact that a story of that magnitude can exist and you not know about it, I find kind of fascinating. Playing a real person, I think as an actor you're sort of desperate to do that when you can, if it's a story that moves you. It's also great in terms of there's something real there to draw upon, and you can dig up as many facts to try to shape the character as best you can, and you don't often get that opportunity with characters who are fictional. So I'm often drawn towards that. So yeah, it just felt like a very important story to be told, and one that I wanted to be involved in, and I'm a massive fan of Sean's work as well, so that helped that he was the person at the helm of such a great story.
Okay, Jana Podskalská.
Podskalská, deník, dobrý den. Bych měla otázku na pana režiséra. Zajímalo by mě, protože vaši hrdinové bez pochyby podnikli skutečný vlastně sebevražedný čin, nicméně byli to jenom lidé. Tak by mě zajímalo, do jaké míry budete přiznávat i určité jejich slabosti, nebo jestli to bude jenom pietní záležitost vůči jejich památce. A pak ještě jednu otázku bych měla, čím jste se vlastně řídil, když jste vybíral herce do hlavních rolí. Děkuji.
I think we've been very accurate with our historical research and have tried to present the historical facts as accurate. But obviously, we don't really know what Kubiš and Gabčík were feeling at any point, and what the pressures that were on them to perform. We can imagine there is documentation of sort of rescinded orders and a feeling that the Czech resistance was divided about the act and whether it should go ahead or not. So, I mean, personally, as a writer, I've had a lot of fun delving into that as fiction and really trying to design a landscape that's very emotional as far as a real emotion that these characters might go through. And I mean, if you look at, say, Attentat, the '64 film that was done in the Czech Republic, they were painted almost very cardboard sort of figures. There was no emotion in them, and it was more about the act and the fact that it was carefully considered in that respect. Whereas I think my approach here, and especially Kubiš and Gabčík's characters go, I think you'll see a very real people up there doing extraordinary things, and I think that was what was appealing to me, was to make these characters not like invincible soldiers, because they were normal people like you and me that were put in extraordinary circumstances, and they were given what they believed were orders, and at a time when no one was looking out for them or looking over them, more importantly, they continued to work on these orders, and they went through with the mission and succeeded. And I think what's interesting for me is what does that take for a normal person to actually achieve that result? And so that's been a pleasure to sort of explore in the script emotionally. Yeah. What was the other?
It was like, how did you choose?
Yeah.
The actors.
That one. It was very interesting to try and find two actors that could represent Kubiš and Gabčík realistically, and without it sort of turning, like I said, into something that was sort of unrealistic, because I wanted these two men to feel very human. And Cillian Murphy and Jamie Dornan were both actors who I felt had a certain sensibility to bring this emotion to the screen, which would be a sort of everyday person that was given an extraordinary mission. And I thought that in that respect, the combination of both of them, I felt, was very interesting. The look of both of them, I think, as a combination, I thought worked really well, and the fact that both of them are of the most talented actors in their generation, and to put them together in an exciting story like this, it felt to me like I've just gone shopping and got the best ingredients. So I'm ready to go cook it now. So.
Ian, Associate Press.
Got a question for Jamie, please. What was it in particular about the script that caught your imagination, and how do you view what your character did in 1942?
I think when I first read the script, the fact that I didn't know about the story, I found, as I said before, I found that kind of mad that something could happen that had such a massive knock-on effect to, an entire nation, and to not have known about that, I found kind of mad. The heroism involved, the sacrifice involved, Similar to what Sean was saying, that they felt, and Jan, particularly to me, because that's what I was reading for. Yeah, it felt like someone you could actually relate to, like guys who were fighting for something that they truly believed in, but were guys. They were normal guys. They had family, you know, that were being massively affected by what was happening. You always need a drive in everything you do, and a reason to tell the story. I think as an actor, you've got to have something that, you know, drives you every day on set. And I mean, could there be any stronger drive needed than, you know, the opportunity to assassinate someone so horrific, you know? I mean, and nobody, you know, can, you know, there's nobody in the world who can't see Heydrich as evil, you know. At the time, there were lots of people who didn't see it as evil, but, you know, now, so to have that, to bring that to work every day, I'm so excited about the idea of like having that as being your drive. I'm terrified of how I'm going to behave actually now on set, knowing that. What was the second part? Oh, okay. Okay.
Tak Tereza Spáčová, Reflex.
Dobrý den, Spáčová, Reflex. Já bych se ráda zeptala, vy jste známí svou pečlivou přípravou na role, například u Phila Spectra byla poměrně známá historka, jak jste běhal po metru v Londýně, tak by mě zajímalo, co si chystáte pro tuto roli. A když už jsem zmínila seriál The Fall, který je tady v České republice velmi oblíbený, tak jestli můžete říct něco k tomu, co znamená pro vás osobně. Děkuju.
Look, people have different ways and means of researching characters and getting into the mindset of whoever they're going to play. Sometimes you do things that you feel are right to embody a character, and sometimes you push limits, and you know, and everyone has their own approach to it. And it can always be different. You know, the way I prepared to play someone like Spectre in The Fall, you take yourself to dark places and. You find out a lot about yourself that maybe you don't always want to find out, and it's quite an interesting process. But for this particular project, I don't think I have to go to those similar kind of places. I think there's things about Jan that will make sense to me more personally than having to really dig too far. He is a man with a mission to carry out, and it's a mission for the right reasons. It's not someone like Spectre who's murdering people for, you know, there's no good reason to murder someone, you know. I mean, there's not. But if you
Unless
are...
he's a Nazi.
No, I was going to say, yeah, this is murder in a sense, but it's for a greater good, essentially, and he very much feels like that. Jan and Josef both feel like that. And... so that you're driven for different reasons, and I feel that Jan's the closest character I've played to myself. So that means that there's parts of the research that you've done for other characters that don't need to be done, that don't make sense, just as long as you have very strong idea of why they were doing what they were doing and who they are in the situation at the time, I think is enough.
Colin O'Connor, Radio Free Europe.
Hi, I just, when we were talking about The Fall there, you know, the third series is probably one of the most eagerly anticipated series coming up in Britain in the moment. Can you tell us anything about it, and can we expect more interaction between you and Gibson without giving too much away? And just one other thing is, like, did it make any difference to you kind of acting in your own milieu, so to speak, in that, like, you got a rare opportunity to use your own accent?
To be honest, I think I'd rather talk about Anthropoid, because that's what I'm here for. Yeah, the third series is happening, and I'm excited, and I hope everyone is, but I think today it's about Anthropoid.
Věra Mišková, druhá otázka.
Dobrý den, já bych se teď chtěla obrátit na české zástupce. Chtěla bych se zeptat pana Ondříčka, jak se k tomu projektu dostal a jaký je podíl jejich spolupráce na něm, a Aně Geislerové, jestli už se dříve setkala se svými mužskými protějšky, nebo jestli teď se seznamujete, nebo jak daleko jsou její přípravy, a taky jak se k té roli dostala. Děkuju.
Já teda neslušně začnu, i když dáma má přednost. My jsme se k tomu dostali vlastně přes film Ve stínu, který byl nominovaný za českou stranu na Oscara a měli jsme to štěstí, říkám my, já a Krištof Mucha, což je druhý koproducent se mnou na tomto filmu, tak jsme měli to štěstí, že se ho všiml Bart Walker, což je velice významný agent ze společnosti ICM a zastupuje Sofii Coppolu, Jima Jarmusche a mimo jiné Shona Ellise a on nám vlastně se s námi sešel a později se sešel v Cannes s Krištofem Muchou, což je mimochodem také výkonný ředitel tohoto překrásného festivalu. A tam vlastně jemu vyprávěl o tom, že Sean má projekt, který by se měl dělat v Praze. Sean minulý rok přijel na festival a i přes všechny ty večírky, které jsme absolvovali, jsme se nakonec domluvili, že bychom se pokusili pomoct s filmem Anthropoid. Naše role je, jako my jsme nováčci v tomhle, já jsem vlastně nikdy nechtěl dělat servis produkční, jako v žádném případě, ale chtěl jsem vlastně dělat věci, které mě v životě baví, tak to máme i s Krištofem. A tohle nás šíleně baví, takže přistupujeme k tomu s nadšením, ne zcela bez chyb a snažíme se prostě zajistit natáčení tady u nás a využít vlastně toho, že jsme dělali i film Ve stínu, který je také dobový film a k mému velkému, nebo vlastně jsem ani nebyl překvapen, že Sean si vybral některé místa, které byly ve filmu Ve stínu, tak budou i ve filmu Anthropoid. Dále se snažíme pomoct s českým castingem, který já mám obrovskou radost, že Sean má radost z českých herců a myslím si, že film bude fantasticky obsazený. Aňa Geislerová už je toho prvotním důkazem. Já bych předal slovo Aně. Děkuji, Davide.
Dobrý den. Co jsem měla říct? Já jsem se setkala vlastně s Kilianem Murphym, který je vlastně, to je můj parťák. Já mám Kubiše. A setkali jsme se na vlastně takových jako krátkých kamerovkách. S Jamiem jsme se potkali tady v Pupu. A nevím, to je asi všechno, co bych řekla ke kolegům, jenom bych chtěla říct, že jsem vlastně nesmírně pyšná, protože vlastně jakoby historicky jsem pyšná na tady ten okamžik v naší historii a pyšná na to, že můžu být jako součástí tohohle projektu. Opravdu. A děkuji Davidovi, Seanovi, všem. Snad to nějak nepokazím.
Amerika Miner, ta první řada.
As well, Sean, do you want to use the story of the assassination to say something about the world today? And to Jamie, is the fact you came from Belfast influence on your attraction to the story? And how the preparation and the research influence on your attitude to the Holocaust, on yourself as well?
Do I want to say something about the world today? I mean, only in the fact that I think this is an incredible story that I think the world should know, and and I hope with this, this incredible cast that it will be widely viewed and seen, and that part of the Czech history will then be understood by more people than understand it now. My views on the Holocaust, you said?
That was from me.
All right.
Well, so that was from me.
Sorry, that's a rhetorical question. I think. I think the only thing I want to add to that before Jamie takes over is that I find it incredibly interesting that obviously at the time Kubiš and Gabčík didn't know about Wannsee, and the fact that 3 months before his assassination, he was busy deciding the fate of 11 million European Jews, and I think that makes the story even more extraordinary, the fact that they didn't know and the fact that they still went ahead. And, hindsight is an amazing thing, but to have all that pressure and doubt on them at that point and still go through with what they did, it was a clear sign that, the Nazis couldn't get away with things and not be accountable for it. And I think that was at the time a very important message that really only came out after the events. At the time they didn't know, but I think that was interesting.
Yep. So of course, I'm from Belfast in Northern Ireland, which is part of the world that is for far too long, not so much these days, thank God, sorry. Who did I think? We've dealt with conflict on a huge level, and dealt with injustice, and dealt with divide, and I think that does colour you as an individual if you're from a part of the world like that, and I think you maybe have a slightly more of an understanding with other parts of the world who've experienced the same, maybe. No association with this film changes my view on the Holocaust. What can you say? It's, beyond my... It's just unfathomable how horrific that is, and what happened was. I guess to be able to depict what happened and have play a character who had some kind of a say over it is kind of ultimately pleasing. What I said earlier about the motivation, what more do you need motivation wise, and to get the chance to, at least at work, get to assassinate a person who was given mastermind of the final solution. I get angry about it sitting here now. I could break those bottles if I wanted to, maybe. I won't.
Dědek Instinkt. Já jsem se chtěl zeptat, atentát na Heydricha byl natočen už několikrát, jestli pan režisér nebo i pan herec viděli některý z těch filmů, ať už to byl v Čechách od sekvence atentát nebo od Fritze Langa ještě za války i Katové umírají, protože v Čechách se asi potom nevyhnete srovnávání, zejména si s tím sekvencovým filmem, tak jestli jste ty filmy viděli a v čem se ta vaše pojetí bude nějak lišit. Děkuju.
I'd feel a bit of a fraud going into a film about a historical event if I hadn't done my research on every other piece of material that's been said or done about that part of the history. So of course I've studied all of those films and documentaries about the time. So and find it very interesting that I can draw on those films that have been done before and see how they've approached certain aspects of the historical story and what they've decided to exclude and what they've fictionized. So in that respect, it's I've spent a long time studying and looking and learning from those films and books as well of the subject because I need to have a complete view. And I feel responsible for updating this story for a new generation. And in that respect, I wouldn't be able to put my hand on my heart and say I did it, truthfully, if I hadn't looked in every nook and cranny and done every bit of research possible to actually then have the complete facts in order to say, okay, this is what I believe I should tell the story from. This is the point of view I should tell the story from. And Attentat is a great film. Stands up. It's great. It's really good, but like I said, there's a new generation of people out there that I think need to see this story, and so looking at that, how do we update it and how do we make it? I think also the thing that's missing from Attentat is the emotion. For me, it's all there, but for me, I don't know what it was like to be Jan and Josef when I watched that movie. So in that respect, I kind of want to take a journey with Jan and Josef. And that's the approach with this film.
Borovička ČTK, dobrý den. Já bych se chtěl zeptat pana producenta, nakolik je pro něj atraktivní systém filmových pobídek v České republice. Zda to nějak usnadňuje natáčení a jaký je rozpočet filmu. Děkuju.
You asked me the hardest questions. Those are tough. The incentive was very appealing to the company that I work for, LD, and talking with David and Christoph and the wonderful producing team that I have here in the Czech Republic and in France with Leo. It just felt like it would be the right thing to do. We're getting some great rebates, and I've always wanted to shoot in the Czech Republic. I worked here for another movie, and I came here for 3 weeks and fell in love with it. So for me, it was very, very easy to the company to greenlight this movie, and B, to work in the Czech Republic, and also to come here for the incentives. And the incentives so far have been really good, you know, but only time will tell. So we will see. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, the budget? I can't tell you that right now.
You should never ask a lady her age.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's a work in progress. Honestly, I'm still working on, believe it or not, I'm still working on budgets. You know that
It's
with
all
movies.
it's all my demands, you see.
Yeah, so many demands. You know, I got Jamie wanting things, and
Well, I know the budget. I know the budget.
you're not getting a raise. No, but I don't know the exact budget, and like Sean said, you would never ask a lady her age.
And the accent, it would be Czech or the accent?
Yes, Czech. The language is going to be presented as English with a Czech accent. Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing Czech.
A bit like this accent. Perfect. See that? That's perfect.
That's an example. Ian from the Festival TV, please. The microphone is where? Thank you.
I'd like to ask Jamie if you have had a chance to go to any of the locations in Prague where these real events happened, and if so, if they've made any impression on you.
I can't wait. I haven't been. I've just finished another movie last week, and I arrived here today. I have to fly back to London today, but I'll be back next week. And yeah, I know. I mean, I can't wait to see all the places, because I think really helps to give you an idea, and get to the crypt and see the bullet holes and see, that's a big help. So I'm looking forward to that, but I haven't had a chance to yet. No.
Will Dessert Variety?
Hi, question for Jamie. When you're looking at playing a character who's one of the greatest Czech national heroes, what kind of things are you looking for as an actor to sort of bring that character back to earth and make him approachable to audiences and bring him, tangible flaws? These things that you looked for in the script from Sean, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it there. I mean, that trying to make him that's somebody that people can relate to, and what we were talking about earlier about, these were just normal guys who were fighting for something that they fiercely believed in. A lot of that work, thankfully, is done for me on the page, because Sean and Anthony have written a fantastic script, and all the human flaws and all the things that make him, a tangible person and someone that the everyman can relate to are on the page, which is kind of great. And they're heroes in a sense of what they did, and but they very much on the page you see that they are flawed, and they have very human aspects to them that would hinder trying to carry out an exercise like this. And we follow those, we follow these guys really closely, and we get to see, it's warts and all, and we get to see how difficult a mission this is for them.
Mirka Spáčová.
Spáčová, dnes ještě jednou, já bych se zastavila právě u postav těch výsadkářů. Zeptala bych se pana Dornana, když hrajete Kubiše, národního hrdinu, možná jste slyšel, že i přesto se u nás objevily hlasy, že celý ten akt byl vlastně zbytečný, že to bylo jenom gesto, které stálo spousty lidí život, že vlastně se to nemělo stát. Jak byste těm hlasům vy odpověděl z pohledu toho, co teď víte o akci Anthropoid? Děkuji.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not really my place to say, people are going to look at it from both sides. Ultimately, I think it was sent a very strong message to show that the Czech people were up for a fight and weren't willing to be treated in that way. And for me, I see that as a very, very heroic act. And I think if I was in that position myself, I probably would have done the same thing. I have a strong understanding of why people see it the other way based on events afterwards, but for me personally, I think ultimately they had to do what they had to do and the way they had to do it, and probably more good came out of it than bad.
We have Tereza Spačilová, Reflex. Ladies first.
Já bych se ještě ráda zeptala Davida Ondříčka. Ty jsi zmínil, že některé ty lokace by se mohly shodovat s tím, co jste používali ve stínu, takže mě zajímalo, jestli aspoň něco z toho se dá prozradit, kde budete točit, která jsou ty shodná místa. A potom k obsazení můžeme čekat ještě nějaká další jména, ptám se, protože tady na festivalu, česká jména, pardon, tady na festivalu se šíří různé fámy nebo různé informace, například se mluvilo o Aleně Mihulové, tak se chci zeptat, co je na tom pravdy. Děkuju.
Děkuji za otázku. To je škoda, že jsi řekla to jméno, protože my se Seanem jsme nacvičovali výslovnost toho jména na dnešek, takže a je to i ta škoda, že tohle je otázka na mě. Seane, can you just say that name which we practice?
Yeah. Elena Mihalova.
Ano, tak.
Will be playing Mrs. Moravec.
Alena Mihalová opravdu tam bude v tom filmu. Nic se neděje, já mám obrovskou radost, že my jsme odložili film o Emilovi Zátopkovi z nedostatku peněz, ale podařilo se nám, respektive, to jsem teď řekl špatně, Sean si vybral do filmu Václava Neužila, který bude ve filmu Anthropoid taky v roli Josefa Valčíka. K mé radosti, a nevím, jestli úplně jeho, tam bude Krištof Mucha, taky v tom filmu v menší roli, Ondřej Malý, Martin Hoffman, Jan Budař. Asi víc neprozradím. Co se týče lokací, tak zase nechci úplně říkat, ale řeknu to, Zvonařská tam hraje podstatnou určitou roli, Invalidovna, samozřejmě asi tušíte, že i v chrámu Cyrila Metodě v Roslově ulici se bude stavět. Co bych chtěl říct, že teda se bude točit, momentálně se staví chrám, vlastně interiér chrámu na Barandově a já jsem ještě něco takového neviděl, teda postaveného. Je to jako neuvěřitelná stavba a strašně se těším, až se bude natáčet. Chtěl bych, vím, jak je těžký jako režisér se sám chválit a proto to udělám to mému kolegovi Seanovi, že ho strašně pochválím, protože jsem měl možnost vidět jeho přípravu, jak on přistupuje k shooting boardu, kde si sám dělá vlastně, fotí si sám shooting board s loutkami herců a já osobně jsem nikdy v životě nic takového neviděl. To už sám o sobě, kdyby se to dalo za sebou, tak je to fantastický film. A ještě bych chtěl říct poslední věc, na kterou se mě nikdo neptal, ale řeknu to. My jsme s Krištofem Muchou viděli, vlastně nám ten Bart Walker poslal film Metro Manila, nebo my jsme se na něj podívali na předchozí Seanův film a v noci jsme se na něj podívali a vlastně jsme nic od toho, nebo nečekali jsme nic, co by nás zas tak mohlo oslovit a zavolali jsme si v 1 hodinu v noci, že jsme něco takového nečekali, protože ten film měl strašně podobný poselství jako film Ve stínu a nás jako neskutečně zasáhnul. A to jsem zapomněl říct právě předtím, že to byl vlastně ten základní impuls, proč jsme v tom filmu a proč ho chceme udělat a proč nás to strašně baví a strašně zajímá.
So.
It's a follow-up question for Sean. We're talking about historical accuracy. Obviously, there is some controversy here when the parachutists, when the assassins end up in the crypt of the church that David just mentioned. The Czech fire brigade were brought in to flood that. Is that covered in the film? Do you touch upon that?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's hard to set that up and not pay it off because I think, I think there was some great repercussions for the fire brigade or the people that suggested that from the fire brigade as being accused of collaborators afterwards. Yeah, so, but yeah, it's all the actions has been very interesting, and just to walk the church and note where all the bullet holes and hand grenades went off, and to recreate that on our, because we have a one-to-one rebuild of the church, so it's a complete one-to-one scale of the church on a soundstage. So to be able to, rig the action as we know it to happen it's been a very pleasant process for a filmmaker.
We have 3 last questions. You guys, Eva Převřelová, E15.
Hi, I just want to ask if you already cast Karel Čurda, and if you can tell us who's going to play him, if it's a Czech guy or English or Irish, another Irish guy.
Yeah, Čurda. He's interesting, Čurda, because how do you do it? How do you do it and it not be hokey and because what was his motive? I mean, there's so many. You can have so many theories on what his motive was or what kind of person he was like. But I guess one interesting thing was, if you look at the army records in the UK that were held by the Free Czechoslovakian Army in their records there, the sheets that all the soldiers filled out. On all of them it says, why did you join the Czech Free Army? And on all the parachutists they wrote patriotism. And Čurda was the only one that wrote adventure. And I thought that told me everything almost I needed to know about that character. And in that respect it gives him a dimension. So I think he's interesting. To answer your question, no, we haven't cast him yet. We're still looking, both in the UK and here in Prague. We do have some exciting UK cast that has joined us. We've got Toby Jones, who will be playing Uncle Heisky, and we have Harry Lloyd, who will be playing Polka, Captain of Polka. And obviously Charlotte Le Bon has been with us from a long time, playing Marie, Jan's love interest.
Klára Kolářová, Festival Daily.
I would like to ask Mr. Dornan why he thinks people are still so fascinated by the stories from the Second World War. Thank you.
Pretty big event.
As world events go.
Events that shape the world, people are never going to be tired of them. They never grow old. It's never inappropriate to retell stories that have had such a massive impact on life beyond the event. So, they'll continue to be made, and stories that have meant such a massive change post them happening are always going to be relevant. So there'll always be an appetite for it, I think.
I always remember my nan who used to cheer up when you mentioned the war.
Oh God!
My nan would you'd start talking about the war and she'd cheer up. Oh yes, the war, and it would all, obviously it was a big part in her life, and you just think, little do we know.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
Great work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.